Welcome to the Channel Surfers, where we help channel executives and sales executives help do their job better and understand, the channel and all the mechanics and maneuvering you need to do when you're working with them. I am John McCabe. I'm the host or co-host, and Jeff Lennon is my very good friend and co-host. And how you doing, Jeff?
John, I'm doing fantastic, man. It's beautiful. It's May. Spring's here. Ready to, start making some things happen. I think we have a really interesting and great guest. So I'm excited today.
Yeah. Today's guest has probably sat in more revenue strategy meetings than most people sat through family dinners. Um, Joe Cellucci is one of those operators that understands the difference between activity and actual pipeline. And, he has had roles as a go-to-market advisor. He has been in the, sorry, I'm trying to get my notes here, Joe. He's a go-to-market leadership background, experience helping organizations scale revenue operations, and a deep understanding of SaaS growth, operational alignment, and customer execution, but also perspective from operator and advisory roles. So we'd like to really give a warm welcome to Joe Cellucci, who is one of the founders of 215 Advisory. How you doing, Joe?
How are you? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, Joe, why don't we open up with just a little bit of your background for our audience so we could give them an understanding of where you're at and how you've been operating?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I've been, I guess, habitual entrepreneurs, maybe a way to describe it, plus an advisor, so mind all of that and sitting on some boards, both in the role of deep operations as well as executive leadership. So technology, SaaS, and also some other side projects.
Right.
Define me. And I think it's interesting too. And we'll talk hopefully a little more about it as well, is with 215 Advisory and some of the stuff we're on right now on the journey with AI and its impact to the whole sales and channel process. There's some very interesting things that I'm sure we'll get into today.
Yeah. So, it's interesting when we had the opportunity to talk a couple of weeks ago. I found what you're doing really interesting, right? Because I think there's this disconnect. I mean, you have all this hype and things that are going on around AI, and everybody's kind of, oh my God, I'm missing out, right? The whole FOMO thing is happening,
Yeah.
right? And it's just, and John and I talk a lot about AI on these podcasts, and what I find interesting is, I think most organizations are failing at AI because it's not that the tools are bad. They're failing because they don't have the right operating models or the right approach to it, clear priorities, clean governance, disciplined execution, all these things that you should typically have when you're running a business anyway. And I think that, it's just, again, my opinion. So I want to kind of get your feedback on this, but I think businesses think that, oh, I'm going to sprinkle some AI, little sugar cookies and, boom, magic, everything's going to happen. But I think it really, what it does is exposes that you can't move at velocity if those things that I just mentioned, the operating model, priorities, clear discipline of execution and your governance. If you don't have those things, AI is not necessarily going to help. It's going to expose, right?
Well, it's a little bit of the squirrel and nut problem right now. Everyone's running around trying to do certain point type solutions, be it on the top of funnel development using agentic, right? Going out, trying to solve a problem, not sure what the return is. And then lo and behold, it becomes whack-a-mole at the senior level, trying to get some containment around, sort of situational evaluation and then response to that with AI. I mean, it's been that way forever, right? Doesn't really matter what the change is. There's a systematic blueprint that's necessary, but the speed at which AI is moving, the blueprint's being forgotten. So you got that challenge. And it's like, oh, we're going to be late. Late to what? Right? And you're getting that reaction and you're getting concurrence at the senior level to try something because the business case that's being made is so, I would call it highlight driven, because with AI, you can be more highlight driven than depth driven in terms of the full business case to get something done quickly. Right. Okay. So that momentum is also causing fragmentation in operating models that need to gain, we need to gain some control over.
Yeah. You know what I find interesting, Joe, and I've heard this a lot lately. A lot of companies are trying to build technology, AI-based technologies themselves, and kind of shove some of the vendors that would provide those same technologies to them. Have you seen that with your, the current, role with 215 Advisory? See customers coming to you and saying, we want to build it ourselves. And what do you recommend? And how do you think we should do it?
Yeah. That's so the do-it-yourself sort of DIY approach to solutions, and we're actually running into not even companies as well as individuals. Individuals may have had 30 years of experience in a particular vertical, in sales, in marketing, saying, "Hey, with prompting and some other things, I can build something that I always wanted built. I could do it myself." And then the offshore, onshore sort of challenges that are starting to happen, and you're seeing organizations bring stuff back in. But the real challenge, and we use this term a lot, right, is context, and that we have sort of moved to the day. We believe we're moving from the days, and this is in short order too, where organizations talk about prompt engineering, right? They talked about software engineering. Well, the reality of it is context engineering. It is. And the reason that it's sort of that do-it-yourself approach is using someone from the outside. The time spent to give context to that organization to build an effective solution is a long time because they don't ask the right questions. So now we've got tools that allow us to do it ourselves. We don't need to necessarily ask the questions. We can whiteboard it and solve it as a group.
Wow. Yeah. And I'm seeing it more and more. And then to John's point, everybody is trying to build more, right? They're trying to become more self-sufficient, right? Like, why go buy? It's that build over buy mentality that I've talked about for, probably 30 years now. But I think AI has made it so much easier to go down that path. And whether or not you have, to your point, I love that context, because I think that's a differentiator. You're not going to have all the context on the back end. You may be able to build something and it may work within the bubble that you're in, but you're not getting all of the other things that you might be able to get from some, and again, some solutions, I could see it going away. I can absolutely see some solutions going away, some software going away. But I also see other things spinning up, because you're going to need things to be able to check those things. You're going to want to be able to have guardrails. You're going to want to be able to check those things. So talk to us a little bit about this 215 Advisory. I'm all about the 215, right?
You Philly guys.
Hey, I remember when that was the only code, right? Now it's a plethora of numbers,
Yeah. But we all stand by 215, right? And that's what we grew up on. Running with. But yeah, so one of the fundamental our thesis. Our thesis is local matters, and working with folks that understand the geography and how that geography works matters. While we happen to be starting in 215, since the core team is based here, we also, plan to expand this advisory approach beyond this 215 area code and this geo, because, and I've used this for years, the consultants that go after the Raiders of Wall Street compared to the consultants and those that live and know, and Jeff, this, in 215, the laggards of Broad Street. Very different consulting style. So we think style matters, one. Two, advising and having accessibility to small to medium-sized enterprises and organizations that, number one, don't get the access to the advising, and also don't get the access at a price point that makes it work for them. And the other thing we've also added is a certified delivery ecosystem, organizations that provide economics and economically valuable solutions to that same target audience and market. We put these organizations through a vetting process that we've created that really bring them to the table twofold. One is, it's not word of mouth. Right. And how many stories, and I've been involved in organizations that have gotten word of mouth referrals, and probably they should have never listened. These organizations in our ecosystem also do and provide a simple answer to one question. Do you do what's in the best interest of your customer versus what's in the best interest of you? And if the answer is yes, then we'll go deeper through almost like a Myers-Briggs profile of the organization to see if they fit the personality of 2 and 5. And that's sort of the approach. And clearly AI is woven throughout, right? It needs to be in our story, but that's sort of the fundamentals of what 2 and 5 is about.
Interesting. Sounds like you're building like a trusted ecosystem of partners to work with.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. And the trust is so high. What we want to make sure is those that are in the ecosystem also have their brains exposed as well. So from a partnering perspective, it's always been I've been in the consulting game, the SaaS game, and a lot of these games for a long time, right? It's been, oh, well, you have to bill through us and be our brand. Like, well, guess what? About 10 minutes into an engagement, when the other partner lands, their brain's going to get exposed. So why hide it? It is a collaborative solution that organizations, I think, actually are longing for too, because they're tired of, this one-stop shop, but do it my way in this one-stop shop, and have no ability to kind of pivot to something worse for them.
Yeah, no, Jeff and I just did a show around building the right ecosystem and how to build right ecosystem. And we're also big fans of sales and partnering strategy called Nearbound. And basically the two combined are what you're talking about, building those trust relationships, building a portfolio of partners that complement what you're doing and help you basically get the job done for your clients. But they could be trusted advisors to that prospect that you want to get to.
Right. Exactly. And that's,
it's, and I didn't mean to cut you off there. It's interesting, right? Because when I looked, after we talked, like I said, I went and I looked, and what you just described, it's almost like you've got this certified kind of, what is it? What do you call it? A certified consulting ecosystem,
correct,
more or less, right?
Yep. Exactly.
And what's interesting is, look, being a sales guy, and I think this is what you were just nailing. It's everybody talks about it's about the relationship, and this is why I said in the beginning when I went through it, it's like what really resonated is making sure that you have that approach, right? So you've got the standards and delivery execution, because it's going to support the relationship. The relationship may get you to the door, may even open the door, but it's what you do, once that door is open and how you execute. And I think, if I had to put it into your bucket, and maybe I'm stealing this from you, right? Your strategy, technology, and execution are the differentiator, correct?
Correct. Okay. And also to your point, Jeff, deep relationships are forgiving. And when they're superficial, kind of do something for me and help me, it becomes a binary decision in the end. Was it successful or not successful? Well, it's, a relationship creates a little more grayness and forgiveness when transparency is understood from the get-go. It's like, hey, we know you tried. We have an issue. Can you help us pivot to the right solution or adjust, versus the elimination, right, or termination of the relationship. So that is, the relationship result is almost more important than what the relationship is. And when you get to the right relationship result, you've created a totally different level of engagement.
So what is one mistake that you think most leaders make when they think they're doing, quote unquote, right? They're doing a transformation.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the biggest issue is that they think they know more than the person or the organization or the target, right? So they become stuck in the ways that they've historically worked. They may give it lip service that, yes, we're ready, but in reality, they're not. So letting go, just in life, right? You live a great life by letting go. You have to have a leader that's willing to let go, but provide guardrails. I'm not saying to say give up and not be part of, the solution, but in general, you got to let go at some levels. And the organizations that I've worked with, you've definitely struggle with trying to get the leader to let go, right? And it's back to the relationship and trust factor as well. Because look, coming in from the outside, and this is a great, when you're in the consulting, you guys know this, when you're building any relationship and you're coming in from the outside, the first thing they look at is, does the shirt fit right?
That's right.
Unfortunately, right, that's what happens. So you have to cut through that a bit, and without fear, potentially alienating the relationship. Because guess what? If you're doing the right thing and you believe in it, if you pivot away from that relationship and still know you're doing the right thing, but telling that organization, the leader, that, hey, we believe and we know because of our history, and they choose not to adopt, you're probably better off than trying to hang in there like a lot of longer term, either individuals in a transformation, outside organizations in a transformation, for whatever's motivating it. Could be the revenue, could be just their own, persistence of their own belief. They tend to go south because there's not the transparency and openness and collaboration. So I don't know if that helps, but that's kind of
that does help. So maybe, Joe, walk us through like what you're typically helping clients accomplish with 215 Advisory, and maybe include or give us an idea of how you lace in those ecosystem partners. Because I think for the audience, they're probably wondering, like, what is it you do? And maybe if you kind of give us an idea of like the projects you're working on with clients to help the audience kind of understand and maybe put an idea in their head, like, hey, we got to call 215 Advisory, but give them a little understanding of the projects you're working on.
Yeah, sure. So I always say it starts with a problem that's stuck in whatever it might be. And we cover the full gamut. We do a lot in the sales, marketing, service, and then what I would call more generic operating process arenas, right? That's where we play. And, we typically start, the word assessment is actually a scary word, right? I don't even want to use it. We tend to be able to quickly stand up a blueprint, right? Okay. For whatever the problem might be. If it's a technology problem, great, there's a technology blueprint. If it's a process transformation problem, we'll provide a process transformation blueprint. And the blueprint is really the effective decision tool put in the hands of our client to allow them to figure out where they want to go. They may choose to do something internally. The blueprint gives them the guidance, and will be remembered for setting that particular project on the right course. The delivery ecosystem and our certified consulting ecosystem is something we bring to the table and say, here are partners that could help you solve this. If you choose, they've been certified, they've been vetted, right? So that sort of walks them through the typical type of engagement. Now, take that and apply it to some things we offer. We offer something called AIM, which is an AI managed service. That is really targeting the multi-step, multi-phased approach to a more organized and governed AI solution, right, for an organization. Gotcha. Again, it starts with the blueprint in the same way. The blueprint is both process technology, ultimately taking them through to, let us make sure that anything that you're going to build, we're going to collaborate on, is effectively integrated into that blueprint. And in the end, and this is where I think there's a large opportunity for the AI space. The managed service of AI is going to be something that's going to have the longer tail for organizations, because the changes come every day. And how does that affect, in essence, their operating models? And we're doing that with a couple of companies right now. I mean, I'll give you a couple of quick examples. We've entered one organization in the financial services space that's growing rapidly, from startup to where they are now. It's a very, very without sort of breaking our relationship and engagement, I can say that they're in the lending space, but grown up a myriad of processes that have spread. No discipline and centered program management sort of hub. No technology platform that's unifying, and no AI strategy that gives them insight into the great data set. And, and it's always back to, where do we provide a lot of value? Fundamentally, we're working with companies right now of their readiness for AI. is their process fabric and their data fabric and their governance fabric ready to take on AI as a transformation. And we're working with several companies right now doing that.
That's very interesting. You're the first person I've heard talk about AI managed services, and that really intrigues me and starting to get the wheels in my head moving a little bit. But that alone is something I don't see in the field, and I think it's something that's probably going to be very important in the next, few years, if not right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, you see what happens. And one of our concepts with 215 is that managed services in general historically have built organizations around a franchise type of model. So you look at the old, more traditional, we'll manage your desktop kind of company, right?
Oh, right.
They kind of scale their businesses through franchising. We think that this same concept can be applied to AI and advisory as we franchise. You can air quote franchising. You may call it licensing the process, licensing the artifacts and the approach, but in general, into other geos, other areas.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
I'm all about frameworks, process, right? Create something, make it simple, make it easy, make it repeatable, and then you go out. And that's so like I said, it's been really interesting. What would you say are probably you don't have to give three, but like 2 or 3 of the best use cases for a team that needs ROI in 30 days? I mean, we're like just almost like low hanging fruit. What do you typically see?
Pipeline lead generation, right? That one right now, to kind of change the traditional cold calling type of approaches that have been out there to try to develop top of funnel. That's happening. And you're seeing agents and agentic, right? And, Anthropic and Claude and its corresponding tool set basically starting to replace. That's the scary thing for those that have historically had call centers in the Philippines, for example, right? That have done that over the years. Agentic's replacing it. The other is institutional knowledge. Knowledge is embedded in an organization where parts of the organization may be aging out, trying to determine how to bring sort of the new, members of the team up to speed. Because and a lot of it's, for example, in service, field service and service management type of companies where, you might have standard operating procedures or documents, all right, that define the product and how it works. The reality is it's what's between the lines that actually makes it work when you're in the field. That kind of knowledge is embedded. How do you extract it? And how do you bring it forward? So that is really one of the other areas that, if you want to call it low hanging fruit there.
Okay. Do you see any common false starts? Like, what is the most common AI false start that you've seen? And I'm just throwing this out there because I think part of this is, first of all, it's fascinating to me, but I do see, like I said, when I first was going through my introduction, my kind of setting the stage sort of thing, so to speak, I see a lot of people, there's, like I said, there's so much hype about it. And then people don't know where to start, and then they end up trying to do something, but they get a false start. What do you see when you go in to companies and they're like, yeah, we tried, and we tried it, but it didn't work, or we're doing this and it's not really giving us what we want?
Well, the problem is dirty assets are dirty assets in an organization, right? No matter what they would have tried, AI or not, their data infrastructure, their asset infrastructure, their knowledge infrastructure wasn't structured and organized in a way to have an effective result anyway. So, while I say, the AI project didn't work out, well, guess what? You weren't ready for AI, right? They could go back 10 years and say the web e-commerce application that we wanted to build, to sell our product didn't work out. Well, you weren't ready then either. So that's where a lot of it starts. They believe that the speed at which this newer technology brings to them, or this newer approach brings to them, they go and jump on and try it without having the foundation and the bedrock there. I mean, that's in many ways, that's why I react to, when you see Amazon calling their, development environment in AI bedrock, it makes a lot of sense, right? When you really think about it. the implications to most organizations. So that, I don't know if that helps, but that's
no, it's
a
I think
lot of what we see.
it does help, and the point is it's real, right? Because I think that's where a lot of people are, and then there's the fear factor. There's the, I tell people that I don't know what I don't know sometimes, right? So that's what learning's all about, right?
Yeah.
I don't know something, so I'm going to go figure it out, and I'm probably going to break it. I'm probably going to make a mistake, and that's okay, because that was the learning process.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very interesting. Yeah. And in terms of, the AI managed services, are you finding like the clients are they utilizing a Bedrock to run AI applications? Are they doing it on their own? Is there like great costs involved? What are you seeing in terms of like how to manage that for them? What do they, what's their their input or their commitment to that?
I think for a lot of organizations, it's hard to grasp what a token is and the implications of starting the ball rolling and how to best get the ball rolling without getting consumed by token dollars and token costs, right? We've been teased a lot in terms of token pricing, but with the data center costs, the build out costs, we're going to see a token cost rise.
Yeah.
Right. So the managed services angle in the play is companies. There are companies that have been using AI forever. I mean, now it's emerged. It's emerged in sort of mainstream, but AI has been in use in many organizations. So they've gotten smart and have the know-how to do things like caching, right? The work where they don't have to spend on the tokens to get the results. There's things, and that's what happens, and we believe for mid-market companies, right? And in particular, where they have 100-person AI team that's building caching logic and understanding what tokens are, inference engines, and how they're used versus the data sets. Do they do stuff with raw files like in Cowork within Anthropic, or do they use a SQL structure? And there's cost savings in the different models. All of that. When I got a small company that wants to fire up a customer service agentic AI tool, right, and get into, well, what's the implication? Well, keeping it running at a baseline. We envision sort of the dashboard of the future being, what's my token volume look like? Having someone watch that and fire the alert back to the organization to say, hey, we've got to pivot a little bit in order to effectively maintain the dollar and the budget that you've assumed for this particular problem. It's less about running it. It's more about running it efficiently.
Yeah.
Well, where would you draw the line for companies, right? Because I what you just said really got my wheels are spinning right now, because we talked about it in the very beginning about the build versus buy. Where would you say the line is where, they need to figure out, like, obviously AI has lowered the cost and the barrier to build something, but it hasn't released the burden of, owning something, tuning it, governing it. Like, that's still there. And everybody's like, oh, I'm going to go build this. That's great. It's like, now you got to maintain it. Now you got to run it. Now you got to govern it. Now you got to update it. I think people they forget about that. And so where do you kind of, when you're doing your thing, like, where do you help people draw a line, or is there like a zone, so to speak?
Oh, I mean, I think the zone is based on the experience and capability of the organization, right? And I think that's part of the evaluation that we do from the start. There's a lot of folks trying, right? And it's also the experience, right? And I've been saying this lately, right? AI has made older folks cool again. We're progress. We've been around a long time, so the age bands and the experience bands of a company are also an important factor in the consideration of the readiness. So we look at all that stuff when we get into conversations and ask those questions. And that so many have taken an approach, and I would call it AI as a hammer and a technology. All of, Jeff, when you describe those elements are gaps that I don't think are going to be recognized. It's no different than the early days of the .com stuff, right? We spun stuff up, right? We realized even it may have been revenue, in sales, that caused a problem for a company. But at the same time, a lot of companies started young and fast and then realized they needed to be a little bit older and slow on some topics. So we tend to lean in the older and slow topics to build a long-term tail for the relationships we're building.
Joe, when you were talking earlier about how a lot of the knowledge base at companies is starting to get to the point where they're retiring, it kind of reminds me of the year 2K dilemma, when a lot of the people that did the programming for all the computers and the time and everything, they were all retired and they had to bring them back, right? So it's almost like we're seeing that with AI. Like you need that knowledge base to be continued, but how do you do that? And getting that knowledge base, and like you said, us middle-aged white guy or middle-aged guys, we're kind of getting looked at again because we have the knowledge and we can help with continuing the that history along with it.
And as I said, that's why institutional knowledge is such a important use case for that very reason. Very reason.
I also think there's a level of curiosity for us. Like for me, I know it is. I mean, I've always been curious. So, I talk to people, and when I start talking about things like I was laughing about the token because somebody was asking me, what does that mean? And they're like, I saw that, and it just kept adding tokens. And I'm like, okay, so it's a unit of measure for how the costing it and how you're doing this. And, and then I said, have you ever done something? And it was funny. I was talking to a room about 15, 16 people. I'm like, have you ever done something? And then it just kind of stopped because you used up all your tokens and you had to wait 4 hours for it to reset. And they all just, no, what are you talking about? I'm like, okay. So,
Joe, just to pivot off of that. And I remember that, crazy aunt you had that you always wanted to hide from because all she did was talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and never stop. I said, if you're not careful using AI and tokens, you may recreate that crazy aunt.
Yeah.
And the only difference this time is you can't hide because you got to pay the bill.
Wow. We used to call her, that was our family joke, was Aunt Betty. So,
but anyway. Exactly.
Aunt Betty, by the way, she's the one who coined the Nike thing. Just do it. And then next thing you know, Nike's running on with it. And, but anyway, because she definitely was the crazy one in a good way. In a good way.
Yeah, I meant the word.
In a good way.
Nothing more.
Family is family.
Correct.
Absolutely.
So, Joe, we're getting to the top of the hour on the show. So maybe if you would help our audience understand, number one, how to get in touch with you, anything pertinent about 215 Advisory you want them to know about, and maybe any last words of wisdom for the audience.
Oh no, I appreciate the setup. Thanks. But feel free. We're at info@215advisory.com. Easiest would be to send an email there. Check out our website, 215advisory.com. Also can always reach out at 215-302-9650. That'll get it to one of the key members of the team. And I would just say on your journey, whatever your journey is, it could be your business journey, your transformation journey, your AI journey. It's always start smart, blueprint, and make sure that the history of what you do is factored in and not forgotten.
Damn.
Jeff, that was three points. That's right along your lines there.
And I've been sitting here, I was taking notes, so you're going to laugh. So my 3, because I always do my 3 at the end.
Yeah.
So first one was, it doesn't fix broken operations. It exposes weak data, governance, and execution flaws. Also, your 215 Advisory, I loved because you just said it. You guys lead with a blueprint, right? And then you take a vetted partner ecosystem approach to solve that problem, which I think is super cool. And then I would say the third one for me is, the real AI challenge is not just building. It's making sure that you understand the ramifications of owning, governing, and running it as well over time, because that will be a cost model that is going to be hard for you to understand and discern out of the gate.
Spot on. Great.
Yeah. Well, Joe, thank you so much for joining us. This was amazing. And there's so many things that you said that got the wheels in my head, turning. And, in terms of partnering with you and on some of the things that
that's
we're
what
doing
that
with our clients.
screeching noise was, by the way. That
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, love to have
all
you on
good.
again, and maybe have Umfan Udo as well, who's your partner, and who's a great guy, great friend of mine. So if the audience wants to get in touch with us, we could be reached at www.channelsurfers.com. There's a contact us page there. You can reach out and email us directly through that, and let us know if you want to be a guest or if you have any topics you want us to talk about. We're happy to listen. If you want to direct email to us, it's john@channelsurfers.com or jeff@channelsurfers.com. We also have a LinkedIn page. Every Tuesday, we release one of our podcasts and our videos on YouTube. You can get us on all the subscription services for podcasts. And then one last note, I just wanted to mention we're very happy to be sponsored by Extreme, which is a payment platform service for partnerships. It's xtrm.com. Great people, and we're very happy to be sponsored by them. Jeff, until the next time, I want to thank you for joining me as well. And do you have any closing parting words?
That was it. I gave you my 3. Joe, it was great meeting you from the 215. I would love to, even have maybe a follow-up conversation, because I really love what you're doing. And I think there's a huge gap in the market. And I think the SMB mid-market everybody's kind of splintered and struggling. So I think you guys are in a really great place. And I love the approach and the whole blueprinting execution model that you have. So looking forward to further conversations with you.
Me as well. Thanks.
For sure. All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. And to our audience, happy selling, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, everyone.